Chapter 18, The Hunt. And thank goodness it seems to be a shorter one, because I just don't got the energy today. It's not late or anything, I just ain't got it in me. I ain't built for this life. Anyways, they emerged one by one from the forest edge, ranging a dozen meters apart. The first male into the clearing fell back immediately, allowing the other male to take the front, orienting himself around the tall, dark-haired man in a manner that clearly displayed who led the pack. The third was a woman. From this distance, all I could see of her was that her hair was a startling shade of red. They closed ranks before they could continue. Oh my God, I fucked that up. They closed ranks before they continued cautiously toward Edward's family, exhibiting the natural respect of a troop of predators as it encounters a larger, unfamiliar group of its own kind. As they approached, I could see how different they were from the Cullens. Their walk was cat-like, a gait that seemed constantly on the edge of shifting into a crouch. They dressed in the ordinary gear of backpackers, jeans and casual button-down shirts in heavy, weatherproof fabrics. The clothes were frayed, though, with wear, and they were barefoot. Both men had cropped hair, but the woman's brilliant orange hair was filled with leaves and debris from the woods. Their sharp eyes carefully took in the more polished, urbane stance of Carlyle, who, flanked by Emmett and Jasper, stepped guardedly forward to meet them. Without any seeming communication between them, they each straightened into a more casual, erect bearing. The man in front was easily the most beautiful, his skin olive-toned beneath the typical pallor, his hair a glossy black. He was of a medium build. Oh my God, I cannot speak. He was of a medium build, hard-muscled, of course, but nothing next to Emmett's brawn. He smiled in an easy... I am so sorry. This is like the worst I think I've ever done in the beginning. Jesus. He smiled an easy smile, exposing a flash of gleaming white teeth. The woman was wilder, her eyes shifting restlessly between the men facing her and the loose grouping around me, her chaotic hair quivering in the slight breeze. Her posture was distinctly feline. The second male hovered unobtrusively behind them, slighter than the leader, his light brown hair and regular features both nondescript. His eyes, though, completely still, somehow seemed the most vigilant. Their eyes were different, too. Not the gold or black I had come to expect, but a deep burgundy color that was disturbing and sinister. The dark-haired man, still smiling, stepped toward Carlyle. Oh God, now I have to give them evil voices. They're all going to be evil. But they're going to be talking a lot, I bet. So how goofy should it be? Fuck it, I'll change it if I have to.
We thought we had a game,
he said in a relaxed voice, with the slightest of Now you tell me he's got a French accent. Of course.
We thought we heard a game,
he said in a relaxed voice, with the slightest of French accents.
I'm Laurent. These are Victoria and James.
He gestured to the vampires beside him.
I'm Carlyle.
This is my family, Emmett and Jasper, Rosalie, Esme, and Alice, Edward and Bella. He pointed us out in groups, deliberately not calling attention to individuals. I felt a shock when he said my name.
Do you have room for more players?
Laurent asked sociably. Carlyle matched Laurent's friendly tone.
Actually, we were just finishing up, but we'd certainly be interested another time. Are you planning to stay in the area for long?
We are headed north, in fact, but we were curious to see who was in the neighborhood. We haven't run into any company in a long time.
No, this region is usually empty, except for us and the occasional visitor, like yourselves.
The tense atmosphere had slowly subsided, into a casual conversation. I'm just going to say this here, and I think what really could help her, and maybe they have to go through with it or they just have to wait it out, but they could just claim that like they have their own personal ritual, because I bet these vampires are all about weird traditions and shit at times with how old some of them can be. Just be like, she's part of the family. We haven't turned her yet because we have a tradition of stuff that she has to do before she can go through with it. I think that's as simple as that. And then, obviously these people are evil and are going to try to eat her anyways, but I think it'd be better instead of saying, oh, we have like a human that we like, because that would be like weird to them. But I think if you be like, it's a tradition from it goes back thousands of years from people that I got turned by. And so she doesn't get turned yet, but she will be. It's a very lengthy process. It takes years, you could even say, to like make sure these guys fuck off for a while. Boom, problem solved. God, people just need to learn to lie better. The tense atmosphere had slowly subsided into a casual conversation. I guessed that Jasper was using his peculiar gift to control the situation.
What's your hunting range?
Laurent casually inquired. Carlyle ignored the assumption behind the inquiry.
The Olympic range... I want to circle. The Olympic range here, up and down the coast, ranges on occasion.
All right, Carlyle's no longer going to be that stupid voice I've been trying to give him, because I think he's going to be talking a lot more the rest of the book. So instead, he'll be good French. It's just going to be two French guys talking about. One of them's going to have an evil French voice, and the other will be a much more lighter in tone French, you know? I think that works better. Or maybe it's more confusing, but fuck you. The Olympic range here, up and down the coast, ranges on occasion. We keep a permanent residence nearby. There's another permanent settlement like ours up near Denali. That wasn't quite French at the end there, but fuck you. Laurent rocked back on his heels slightly.
Permanent? How do you manage that?
There was honest curiosity in his voice.
Why don't you come back to our home with us, and we can talk comfortably?
Carlyle invited.
It's a rather long story.
James and Victoria exchanged a surprised look at the mention of the word home, but Laurent controlled his expression better.
That sounds very interesting, and welcome.
His smile was genial.
We have been on the hunt all the way down from Ontario, and we haven't had the chance to clean up in a while.
His eyes moved appreciatively over Carlyle's refined appearance.
Please don't take offense. Bonjour.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get back in the voice.
Bonjour. Allez-vous le français? Please don't take offense, but we'd appreciate it if you'd refrain from hunting in this immediate area. We have to stay inconspicuous, you understand?
Carlyle explained.
Of course,
Laurent nodded.
We certainly won't encroach on your territory. We just ate outside of Seattle anyway.
He laughed. A shiver ran up my spine.
Where am I at?
Oh, sorry, Carlyle speaking.
We'll show you the way if you'd like to run with us. Emmett and Alice, you can go with Edward and Bella to get the jeep.
He casually added, 3 things seemed to happen simultaneously while Carlyle was speaking. My hair ruffled with the light breeze. Edward stiffened, and the second male, James, suddenly whipped his head around, scrutinizing me, his nostrils flaring. A swift rigidity fell on all of them as James lurched one step forward into a crouch. Edward bared his teeth, crouching in defense, a feral snarl ripping from his throat. It was nothing like the playful sounds I'd heard from him this morning. It was the single most menacing thing I had ever heard, and chills ran from the crown of my head to the back of my heels.
"What's this?"
Laurent exclaimed in open surprise. Neither James nor Edward relaxed their aggressive poses. James feinted slightly to the side, and Edward shifted in response.
"She's with us." "Oh, bonjour, she is with us."
God, it's hard to keep an accent when they do 3 words, you know? It's not... Sorry, lost my train of thought there. Carlyle's firm rebuff was directed toward James. Laurent seemed to catch my scent less powerfully than James, but awareness now dawned on his face.
You brought a snack?
He asked, his expression incredulous, as he took an involuntary step forward. Edward snarled even more ferociously, harshly, his lip curling high above his glistening bared teeth. Barred? Why I say barred? Bared teeth. Laurent stepped back again.
I said she's with us,
Carlyle corrected in a hard voice.
But she is human,
Laurent protested. The words were not at all aggressive, merely astonished.
Yes.
Emmett was very much in evidence at Carlyle's side, his eyes on James. James slowly straightened out of his crouch, but his eyes never left me, his nostrils still wide. Edward stayed tense like a lion in front of me. When Laurent spoke, his tone was soothing, trying to diffuse the sudden hostility.
It appears we have a lot to learn about each other.
Indeed. Carlyle's voice was still cool.
But we'd like to accept your invitation.
His eyes flicked back toward me and back to Carlyle. And
of course, we will not harm the human girl. We won't hunt in your range, as I said.
James glanced in disbelief and aggravation at Laurent and exchanged another brief look with Victoria, whose eyes still flickered edgily from face to face. Carlyle measured Laurent's open expression for a moment before he spoke.
We'll show you the way. Jesper, Rosalie, Esme,
he called. Maybe I'll give Carlyle a bit more Spanish, because it's kind of hard to differentiate without the growliness, you know? So maybe I'll try Spanish. Carlyle is just probably the most changed, and fuck you, it's just going to keep happening.
We'll show you the way.
No, what is Spanish? ¿Dónde está? We'll show you the way, Jess. I don't know. I'm just going to do a voice for him. It's just going to be that. I'm so fucking... I can't do it today. I'm just not... I don't know. We'll show you the way. Jesper, Rosalie, Esme, he called. They gathered together, blocking me from view as they converged. Alice was instantly at my side, and Emmett fell back slowly. His eyes locked on James as he backed toward us.
Let's go, Bella.
Edward's voice was low and bleak. This whole time I'd been rooted in place, terrified into absolute immobility. Edward had to grip my elbow and pull sharply to break my trance. Alice and Emmett were close behind us, hiding me. I stumbled alongside Edward, still stunned with fear. I couldn't hear if the main group had left yet. Edward's impatience was almost tangible as we moved at human speed to the forest edge. Once we were in the trees, Edward slung me over his back without breaking stride. I gripped as tightly as possible as he took off, the others close on his heels. I kept my head down, but my eyes, wide with fright, wouldn't close. They plunged through the now black forest like wraiths. The sense of exhilaration that usually seemed to possess Edward as he ran was completely absent, replaced by a fury that consumed him and drove him still faster. Even with me on his back, the others trailed behind. We reached the Jeep in an impossibly short time, and Edward barely slowed as he flung me in the back seat.
Strap her in,
he ordered Emmett, who slid in beside me. Alice was already in the front seat, and Edward was starting the engine. It roared to life, and we swerved backward, spinning around to face the winding road. Edward was growling something too fast for me to understand, but it sounded a lot like a string of profanities. The jolting trip was much worse this time, and the darkness only made it more frightening. Emmett and Alice both glared out the side windows. We hit the main road, and though our speed increased, I could see much better where we were going, and we were heading south, away from Forks. "Where are we going?" I asked. No one answered. No one even looked at me. "Damn it, Edward! Where are you taking me?"
We have to get you away from here. Far away. Now.
He didn't look back, his eyes on the road. The speedometer read 105 miles an hour. Turn around. You have to take me home, I shouted. I struggled with the stupid harness, tearing at the straps.
Emmett,
Edward said grimly. And Emmett secured my hands in his steely grasp. No, Edward, you can't do this.
I have to, Bella. Now please be quiet.
I won't. You have to take me back. Charlie will call the FBI. They'll be all over your family. Carlisle and Esme. They'll have to leave, to hide forever.
Calm down, Bella.
His voice was cold.
We've been there before.
Not over me, you don't. Wait, what? Did I skip a page? That's, not the right response. We've been there before. She says, calm down, Bella. We've been there before. And then she says, not over me, you don't. Not over me, you don't. You're not ruining everything over me. I struggled violently, with total futility. Alice spoke for the first time. Edward, pull over. Edward. Fuck it, I'm going super stereotypical Southern of her. Edward, pull over. He flashed her a hard look and then sped up. Edward, let's just talk this through.
You don't understand,
he roared in frustration. I'd never heard his voice so loud. It was deafening in the confines of the Jeep. The speedometer neared 115.
He's a tracker, Alice. Did you see that? He's a tracker.
Whatever the fuck that means. I felt Emmett stiffen next to me, and I wondered at his reaction to the word. It meant something to the three. It meant something more to the three of them than it did to me. I wanted to understand, but there was no opening for me to ask. Pull over, Edward. Alice's tone was reasonable, but there was a ring of authority in it I'd never heard before. The speedometer inched past 120. Do it, Edward.
Listen to me, Alice. I saw his mind. Tracking is his passion, his obsession. And he wants her, Alice. Her specifically. He begins the hunt tonight.
He doesn't know where... He interrupted her.
How long do you think it will take him to cross her scent in town? His plan was already set before the words were out of Laurent's mouth.
I gasped, knowing where my scent would lead. Charlie, you can't leave him there. You can't leave him. I thrashed against the harness. She's right, Alice said. The car slowed slightly. Let's just look at our options for a minute, Alice coaxed. The car slowed again, more noticeably, and then suddenly we screeched to a stop on the shoulder of the highway. I flew against the harness and then slammed back into the seat.
There are no options, Edward hissed.
I'm not leaving Charlie, I yelled. He ignored me completely.
We have to take her back,
Emmett finally spoke.
No.
Edward was absolute.
He's no match for us, Edward. He won't be able to touch her. He'll wait.
Emmett smiled.
I can wait too. You didn't see. You don't understand. Once he commits to a hunt, he's unshakable. We'd have to kill him.
Emmett didn't seem upset by the idea. That's an option.
And the female. She's with him. If it turns into a fight, the leader will go with them too. There are enough of us.
There's another option, Alice said quietly. I mean, that seems like the other option would be pretty easy. Turn her to a vampire. Obviously that's where the books go, but it's like, if you want this to really work out, she's going to ask that at some point, and I bet Alice would easily do it. Alice seems like the kind of girl that would, like, Edward could specifically tell her no, but then Bella's like, please, I want to be with him forever. I don't want to grow old and die without him. I don't want him to be sad without me. And then Alice was like, yeah, sure, G, what's up? You'd probably need to get Carlisle to help, though. or just another person to help pull her off. Probably Carlisle, though, because I bet the smell of blood would still kind of fuck them over. Probably Carlisle. But Carlisle's a homie. He might not do it without Edward's permission, though. Get Jasper involved to convince everybody. Easy peasy. There's another option, Alice said quietly. Edward turned on her in fury, his voice a blistering snarl.
There is no other option.
Emmett and I both stared at him in shock, but Alice seemed unsurprised. The silence lasted for a long minute as Edward and Alice stared each other down. I broke it. Does anyone want to hear my plan?
No,
Edward growled. Alice glared at him, finally provoked. Listen, I pleaded. You take me back.
No,
He interrupted. I glared at him and continued. You take me back. I tell my dad I want to go home to Phoenix. I pack my bags. We wait till this tracker is watching, and then we run. He'll follow us and leave Charlie alone. Charlie won't call the FBI on your family. Then you can take me any damn place you want. They stared at me, stunned. It's not a bad idea, really. Emmett's surprise was definitely an insult. It might work, and we simply can't leave her father unprotected. You know that, Alice said. Everyone looked at Edward.
It's too dangerous. I don't want him within 100 miles of her.
Emmett was supremely confident.
Edward, he's not getting through us.
We know that's not true. Well, I know that's not... Well, you obviously know it's not true. But I know it's not true from the vague memories of that first movie the one time I watched it. Because I'm pretty sure she ends up in their mansion. She ends up in a mansion. Maybe that's not how the book goes, but in the movie she ends up in a mansion and they save her. And they kill the other vampire. I think they cut his head off or they rip his head off. It's one of those two. Honestly, I see it's probably going to be Edward that rips the guy's head off. I think I'd like it more if Carlisle did it. Because Carlisle seems to be like, he's the one that's the most, like, he's the one that started all the let's not eat people thing. Sounds like he never has in his life. The others may or may not have, but, like, it makes more sense. It's more fun thematically, I think, for me, if it's Carlisle who's then pushed to have to kill the other guy. Although, really, it seems like just taking the assault to them would be way fucking easier. Just saying, if Edward's so convinced that he's going to try to kill Bella no matter what, and it's going to end in murder, especially if he's like, oh, he's a tracker, whatever the fuck that means still, just kill them. Just go ahead and start the fight. Should have just done, well, probably not at the baseball. Well, pretend like you're going to have them have Edward go away, take Alice with Edward because she can see the futures in case one of them chases after her. And have the rest just fucking immediately gang up on them. Anyways,
Edward, he's not getting through us.
Alice thought for a minute. I don't see him attacking. He'll try to wait for us to leave her alone.
It won't take him long for him to realize that's not going to happen.
I demand you take me home. I tried to sound firm. Edward pressed his fingers to his temples and squeezed his eyes shut. Please, I said in a much smaller voice. He didn't look up. When he spoke, his voice sounded worn.
You're leaving tonight, whether the tracker sees or not. You'll tell Charlie that you can't stand another minute in Forks. Tell him whatever story works. Pack the first things your hands touch and then get in your truck. I don't care what he says to you. You have 15 minutes. Do you hear me? 15 minutes from the time you cross the doorstep.
The Jeep rumbled to life, and he spun us around, the tires squealing. The needle on the speedometer started to race up the dial. I'm just going to be honest, like legitimately, Charlie's best friend is already a werewolf, so it's not like he's not already sort of connected to this, just because Charlie doesn't realize it. One of Charlie's best fishing buddies is a fucking werewolf that they hang out with. He bought the car off the werewolf. Maybe just tell Charlie and have Charlie come with you for a bit if you're really upset with this plan. It's not like it would be hard to convince him of something. Just make sure he doesn't have his gun on him when he does it, and then use some super speed shit. Or, I don't know, just fucking, like, grab up a piece, like grab a rock, let him feel it, be like, this is a real rock. Rip a piece of the fucking like sidewalk out and then hold it up and just fucking crush it with your hands. Run really fast for a second where it looks like you've teleported. Convince him at least something's different about it, and then he needs to listen to you. And then get help from Jasper. I don't know why you don't use Jasper more to help convince him we need to get your daughter to safety. And you're coming with us. The Jeep rumbled to life, and he spun us around, the tires squealing. The needle on the speedometer started to race up the dial. Emmett, I asked, looking pointedly at my hands.
Oh, sorry.
He let me loose. A few minutes passed in silence, other than the roar of the engine. Then Edward spoke again.
This is how it's going to happen. When we get to the house, if the tracker is not there, I will walk her to the door. Then she has 15 minutes.
He glared at me in the rearview mirror.
Emmett, you take the outside of the house. Alice, you get the truck. I'll be inside as long as she is. After she's out, you can take the Jeep home and tell Carlisle. No way, Emmett broke in. I'm with you. Think it through, Emmett. I don't know how long I'll be gone. Until we know how far this is going to go, I'm with you.
Edward sighed.
If the tracker is there, we keep driving.
We're going to make it there before him, Alice said confidently. Edward seemed to accept that. Whatever his problem with Alice was, he didn't doubt her now. What are we going to do with the Jeep? She asked. Sorry, I know I'm giving the other female character that's not Bella not as much like intensity. I just can't do it. I can't do an intense female voice. My vocal cords aren't allowing it. My brain just isn't doing it. His voice. What are we doing with the Jeep? She asked. His voice had a hard edge.
You're driving it home.
No, I'm not, she said calmly. The unintelligible stream of profanities started again. We can't all fit in my truck, I whispered. Edward didn't appear to hear me. I think you should let me go alone, I said even more quietly. He heard that.
Bella, please, just do this my way. Just this once,
he said between clenched teeth. Listen, Charlie's not an imbecile, I protested. If you're not in town tomorrow, he's going to get suspicious.
That's irrelevant. We'll make sure he's safe, and that's all that matters.
Then what about this tracker? He saw the way you acted tonight. He's going to think you're with me wherever you are. Emmett looked at me, insultingly surprised again.
Edward, listen to her, he urged. I think she's right.
Yes, she is, Alice agreed.
I can't do that.
Edward's voice was icy. Emmett should stay too, I continued. He definitely got an eye full of Emmett.
What?
Emmett turned on me. You'll get a better crack at him if you stay, Alice agreed. Edward stared at her incredulously.
You think I should let her go alone?
Of course not, Alice said. Jasper and I will take care of her. We'll take her.
I can't do that,
Edward repeated, but this time there was a trace of defeat in his voice. The logic was working on him. I tried to be persuasive. Hang out here for a week. I saw his expression in the mirror and amended. A few days. Let Charlie see you haven't kidnapped me, and lead this James on a wild goose chase. Make sure he's completely off my trail. Then come and meet me. Take a roundabout route, of course, and then Jasper and Alice can go home. I could see him beginning to consider it.
Meet you where?
Phoenix, of course.
No. He'll hear that's where you're going,
he said impatiently. And you'll make it look like that's a ruse, obviously. He'll know that we'll know that he's listening. He'll never believe I'm actually going where I say I'm going.
She is diabolical.
Emmett chuckled.
And if that doesn't work,
There are 7 million people in Phoenix, I informed him.
it's not that hard to find a phone book.
I won't go home,
Huh?
he inquired, a dangerous note in his voice. I'm quite old enough to get my own place. Edward will be with her, Alice reminded him.
What are you going to do in Phoenix?
He asked her scathingly. Stay indoors.
I kind of like it.
Emmett was thinking about cornering James, no doubt.
Shut up, Emmett.
Where the fuck are we?
Look, if we try to take him down while she's still around, there's a much better chance that someone will get hurt. She'll get hurt, or you will, trying to protect her. Now, if we get him alone...
He trailed off with a slow smile. I was right. The Jeep was crawling slowly along now as we drove into town. Despite my brave talk, I could feel the hairs on my arms standing up. I thought about Charlie, alone in the house, and tried to be courageous.
Bella?
Edward's voice was very soft. Alice and Emmett looked out their windows.
If you let anything happen to yourself, anything at all, I'm holding you personally responsible. Do you understand that?
Yes, I gulped. He turned to Alice.
Can Jasper handle this?
Give him some credit, Edward. He's been doing very, very well, all things considered.
Can you handle this?
And gracefully, little Alice pulled back her lips in a horrific grimace and let loose with a guttural snarl that had me cowering against the seat in terror. Edward smiled at her.
But keep your opinions to yourself, he muttered suddenly.
End of chapter 18. I just want to double check something other than when does the epilogue start? Because it's, motherfucker, when do you start epiloguing? Oh, goddamn it, I have to check the fucking table of contents. I don't want to. That's admitting defeat. Hold the epilogue. Wait, epilogue starts at 481. So, if we're not counting the epilogue, we have less than 100 pages to go for the main story. And now it's time for a little bit of critique because that was so short. There won't be a song or anything after this. The only song I think of was Hungry Like a Wolf. I'm on the hunt, I'm after you, but I don't know that song well enough, so we're not going to do that. So you can go ahead and skip if you don't want to hear that. My critique now. It's far too late for this family to show up. I mean, the last fucking fifth of the book, and now we have an antagonist to it. The book doesn't need an antagonist. However, I think it would work better. It needs to be set up a bit more. Obviously, it's like, you have the idea, okay, some vampires are bad. That's very clear here, how they're the special ones. I don't say that. I mean specifically set up for these guys, other than like the one time a little bit before this where Edward's like, I'm going to be a little bit more up your ass because there's going to be some vampires passing through, which I'm going to just guess. I have to assume it's just Alice saw that in a vision. Otherwise, I don't know how the fuck they knew unless they got like a fucking chat room. The problem is they should be setting that up more. I think maybe even just simple things of like Charlie having the news on. And like you're hearing about like these bodies that have been found slowly coming up from whatever direction the family is coming from. Just a little bit like, okay, these are killers. And it's like, oh, or you can even say a lot of bodies being found in a place. So it's like they're not just killing for food. It's for sport, clearly, for them. They're not just doing it because they're hungry. Because, you know, we see with these guys, even though it seems they probably push their hunger for the bears and stuff, it's not very often that they have to eat. So I think that could be shown a bit better there. So it's like, even before we even see them, we make that connection where like, these people are clearly not just subsistence killing, as it were. I think that would help out a lot there. It could even be something different where Charlie is complaining. I mean, he's local police department, but he's like, Yeah, I was talking with some old buddies of mine that are like in the FBI, and they were just like talking about this string of killings. That one's not quite as good. I think you'd have to work a bit more with that one, although I think it could work better. It would just take more planning, but just have something like that where Charlie even mentions offhandedly a couple times, give him a bit more relevance to the story. Just a slight bit more setup than that, I think, would have helped. Because otherwise it's just kind of like, well, we've solved all the problems for the most part we had with Edward in this book and Bella's relationship. They're all cool together, and he's not going to eat her anymore. He's gotten past that point. So now, the book's still a little short for us. We want to make it 500 pages. That's a good quota. So let's throw in the antagonist for extra drama. I don't really think that's how it went with Stephanie Myers, but it's kind of how it feels. Just a little bit more setup, I think, would have helped a lot in these characters. Also, I was a little confused just reading that chapter. It sounds like the dude that first smelled her that wasn't talking is the one that's going to be hunting her. I could be wrong. I wasn't sure because it was like, is it the guy that's talking or the one that's hunting? And I think it's going to be the one that, or the one that just smelled her and didn't talk at all is the one that's the tracker. That was a really silly line. He's a tracker. Who gives a shit, man? What are you talking about? You just mean he's like a dude that is a fucking stalker? You mean he's a fucking creep? And then that's the general annoyance of a situation where, like, because that's where you want the story to go, the characters are making what I think most people would consider stupid decisions. As compared to the alternatives. I mean, obviously, it makes, like, I don't know, we haven't really seen. Also, if there had been, like, obviously not a conversation that Bella would have heard, but maybe just, like, hints that a conversation had been had between Alice and Edward, or Edward and Carlisle, or some people with Edward about, like, well, if you want this relationship to work out, like, do you want us to turn her? Is that what we're getting at? And Edward being vehemently against that, because that's definitely what they were talking about there when he denied whatever Alice thought about. I think a little bit of setup as that would be better, just so, like, I don't know, just having addressed that before would have made some sense to me. It's not as important. And obviously they were right about probably somebody getting hurt if they fought in the baseball field. Would have been nice if if right as they were about to fight, Alice like got like a really bad look on her face that was described, like, oh, she sees this not going well. Not that they wouldn't win, because they definitely win with their numbers, but like someone gets hurt or dies protecting Bella, because I think Bella would live, but like somebody gets hurt and dies from protecting Bella, and I think that would be a better way to do it. Or just, use your fucking 400 years of experience, Carlisle, and just lie. I doubt one of those three got mind-reading abilities. If you say you've marked... I don't know. It seems like these guys are cunts and would have tried to kill her anyways, but it might have helped if you were just like, hey, we are going to turn her. Because right now at that point, otherwise you're just like, yeah, we're keeping a human. And they're like, that's weird. And it wasn't like... You're like, no, she's not our food. So like... Then what the fuck are you doing? Right? Doesn't compute to these cunts. Because they're small-minded. They just chase the dopamine rush of eating people. Small-minded. But I think if you had been like, hey, we're going to turn her into one of us. This is what we do. Look how big our family is. And the reason it takes so long is that's why we're able to have a home and we stay here. Is because we do things the slow, long con. Because I paid a shit ton of money for that nice-ass house in the forest. And I'm going to get its fucking money's worth. You know how hard it was to set up an internet connection in the middle of the fucking woods? Look, buddy, we're not leaving here. And I'll fucking rip your throat out. I'll pull your head off. I will stake your fucking heart before you ever fuck me over on that investment. Okay, buddy? Okay? We just finally got a smaller company for internet service, because before it was Dish and like fucking monopolizing, but then a new startup came in and it's fucking fantastic now. So don't fuck with me. I am 7 billion years old. My name is Carlisle Cullen. And I will kill you if you fuck with my house. I think he should have just said whatever the fuck I just said verbatim. Now, because I don't really have anything else to do because food's going to get here in a minute, I'm going to read an... No, I'm not. I was going to read something, but I realized I don't have access to it at the moment. Guess I will be done then. Oh, I've been texted. Oh, Mom texted me. I didn't see that. When was that? Okay, anyways. Whoops. I'm not going to cut any of that last bit out. But you likely skipped this anyways. Bye-bye.